Many Americans likely missed hearing about the regulatory shift a few years ago inside USDA that allows for exemptions or speedier approvals of certain genetically altered plants. Inside the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center in St. Louis, however, plant researchers absolutely had the new SECURE rule, which means sustainable, ecological, consistent, uniform, responsible, efficient, on their radar.
Within the SECURE rule, it identified specific exemptions for genome-edited products, and as well, it made life a little easier even for genetically engineered products, because if you were working on a product that had a similar mode of action to another genetically engineered crop that had already received approval from USDA, then the work stream was a lot easier and less complicated.
Some have objected to the rule from the outset, including the food and safety nutrition advocacy group Center for Science in the Public Interest, which also believes food made from currently approved GMO seeds are safe to eat and benefit farmers and the environment. However, the 50-year-old group is concerned that many plant breeders have too great a financial incentive to self-proclaim eligibility for bypassing regulatory steps. According to a 2023 Congressional Research Service report, the 2021 law helped expedite the time period for approval of certain biotech plants. Federal officials say they have confirmed 97 exemptions as of July 2024, requiring an average of 52 days. The approval process has consequently become less costly for some projects, and the report says it is primarily mid-size and smaller entities that have applied. For the nonprofit Donald Danforth Plant Science Center, which does research on food security crops and on plants that boost agricultural sustainability, the changes mean getting improved seed into the hands of farmers more quickly. One of the group's current projects focuses on teff, a small grain popular in the eastern African countries of Ethiopia and Eritrea. Teff, a staple for about 80 million people, is turned into flour and used to make injera, a spongy flatbread.
So we had to go through a consultation process with USDA, which we did, and they ultimately determined that the edited teff would not be subject to regulation. So for us, that makes a big difference. It really reduces the complexity and the cost with downstream product development. It means that we can go directly into open field trials without constraints, without having to deal with conditions of isolation, segregation, and the like.
The Danforth Center has been working on a shorter stemmed teff that may be less susceptible to lodging, a condition where the plant falls over in heavy rains or high winds, typically reducing yield by a quarter. The genetically edited teff is a modern take on the work done for wheat by Norman Borlaug, who used traditional breeding techniques over many years to reduce lodging, which moderated starvation, especially on the Asian continent, and resulted in what is known as the Green Revolution.
But now, since we know what genes contributed to the Green Revolution, through now modern technology called CRISPR genome editing, now we can go find out similar gene in this crop and then knock it out so that the plant can be lodging resistant.
Getu Duguma, the lead researcher on the project, grew up on a farm in Ethiopia, where his family raised teff and corn, doing the fieldwork by hand.
It's personal because I grew up with this crop. I know the problems. So I know how much the farmers are losing by growing this crop because of lodging issue. So that's why I wanted to be part of that solution. This is the first gene-edited teff that is planted anywhere else. And so that we want to replicate that where this crop is really very valuable. But the main goal for us is to just market this crop in Ethiopia. We deliver this as free of charge to farmers there because we do humanitarian work.
This spring, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation gave the Danforth Center and an Ethiopian research institute they are working with a nearly $5 million grant to support their work on teff. Because no foreign genetic material has been introduced, Danforth hopes the edited teff can be grown without being subject to the Ethiopian agricultural policies that would govern genetically engineered crops.
Countries like Nigeria, Kenya have already adopted the policy, favorable policy against for gene-edited products. So in a few years to come, I think there should be a very favorable policy in place for genome-edited products.
Danforth has also genetically altered cowpeas to protect them from pod borers in Nigeria, and cassava to protect it from a plant virus in Kenya. The seeds are passed to African farmers without charging royalties, unless the in-country partner chooses to set a fee. Mackenzie says breeding plants to endure weather extremes while spending less on regulatory steps is key.
So if we, consider genetically engineered crops and foods, it's important to remember that these products have been approved in more than 70 countries around the world, including the European Union, for direct use in food feeder processing and that. And in every case, the regulatory agencies have all been unanimous in their approval. We haven't had dissenting decisions anywhere.
For Market to Market, I'm Colleen Bradford Krantz.